Now, a question for you guys, you two. Did you feel that, because again, I'm not in that corporate world. Did you feel that you had to work more hours because you had to prove you were getting your work
Mm.
done? Like you were afraid? I
I
don't know if that's
I
a thing
I
out there.
I feel like I probably did have that self-imposed.
mhm.
Like I feel like I probably put it on myself that I'm home. I've got to prove to them that I'm
Working.
working
Dude.
and being efficient and getting stuff done. Um, I think I felt that.
Welcome to the Three Women on podcast, your go-to for real talk on women's health, careers, family, and everything in between. Okay, so Janae, we were just talking about this. Tell me what the number one question is when people are looking for a new job. What are they asking?
Number one question on when you're going into an interview is what is your company's flex time policy?
Mm-hmm.
So the option to work from home is it's so critical right now. It's in new hires, so and who you're looking for to hire. So
And it's been so interesting, right? Because we're seeing more companies, we're seeing all across America back in the office 5 days a week. We're going. If you want to keep this job, you come back.
yes.
So is that more a demand than, let's say, like health insurance or something along that paradigm now out in the work industry?
It's the number one question. I think that's telling that
Wow.
it is. And actually, I saw a statistic that like almost 50% or just over 50% would quit their job if their employer told them that they could not have a flexible schedule.
But so here's the question. So during the pandemic,
Mhm.
I was employed with a company that at the time it was 5 days a week, although I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
I remember those first few days when like we were all home. Okay. Let's be honest, we did catch up on laundry in between calls. Like we probably were on conference calls on our phones, or on our headsets, folding
Yeah.
laundry. But I remember being home and I had my youngest son doing schoolwork on the computer in the
Mhm.
kitchen. It's actually it's equally as demanding and challenging to work from home. I remember at least during the pandemic time, I was finding myself working more hours because it's so easy to
Yes.
walk by your home office or where your desk is set up and be like, oh, I hear the phone ringing, or
Yep.
oh, that email just came in. I'm just going to quick respond back.
Yep.
But now we're seeing that I'm reading statistics that the ideal amount of days is 2 to 3 days in the office because people do like the collaboration, but they don't want to be told they need to be there 5 days a week.
Yeah, this is a very complicated issue because I feel like there are just think about all of the different people and the scenarios that they have, and there are as many questions as there are different scenarios, right? Like it's just how do you address them all, and are you discriminating? Are you on how you apply your flex policy? It's very complicated because there are so many scenarios. To your point, working parents that had children at home, working from home is harder than in the office because you're more distracted. However, someone that doesn't have children at home or they're away at school or during the day, they might find that they're more distracted in the office when colleagues are coming in and disrupting their day. So it's just so varied in the possible solutions and outcomes that it's very complicated. There's no one size fits all, it feels like. So I actually do kind of like the mix of a 2 to 3, because ultimately we have to deliver. You're going to a job. We're going there to do something, to have an output for we are responsible for doing something. But then there are other things we've got to consider. Are we going to be able to attract and retain good employees? Like that is a real concern. You want good employees, and if 50, if that's their number one question, you've got to build that in somewhere. And then I think the third thing that we really, as companies, really want to maintain and cultivate is our corporate culture. And can you do that if they're consistently at home? So given those three things, like, are we getting our job done? Are we doing it? Are we keeping and retaining talent? And are we cultivating this culture that we need to have a successful business?
So again, I'm coming from a different perspective, right?
Yes.
Because of solo practice, I travel, teach, etc. So I never, I never was at home working
Yep.
per se, right? So, so from a health perspective, we know that we're getting the studies in now that virtual meetings, virtual collaboration, it doesn't affect or nourish, I guess is the word I want to use, the same parts of the brain as in-person interaction.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
we as humans want to be, excuse me, we're societal human beings, right? We
Yes.
want connection. We want physical connection. And seeing somebody in the facial expressions over a screen versus in person doesn't do the same thing for that part of the brain. It's called our executive function part of our brain, or emotional part of our brain.
Yep.
So I think a hybrid situation could be very well
Yeah.
a good solution there,
kind of
because you still have that
accommodate-
in-person connection
Yep.
and that human connection, but and you're fostering those relationships and that societal relationship,
Yep.
but you're actually affording that the bonding as well and getting things done.
That's fascinating.
Now, a question for you guys, you two. Did you feel that, because again, I'm not in that corporate world, did you feel that you had to work more hours because you had to prove you were getting your work done? Like you were afraid? I don't know if that's a thing out there.
I feel like I probably did have that self-imposed.
Mhm.
Like I feel like I probably put it on myself that I'm home. I've got to prove to them that I'm
working
and being efficient and getting stuff done. I think I felt that.
I
Right?
definitely felt that.
Yeah.
And but I think there were times that like you just got so wrapped up because okay, so one thing I remember me and a colleague talking about when we were working from home, we would both get on really early, about 6:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, sometimes even 5:30 because I was working in other markets. But then I would notice I would still work American hours,
Yeah.
even though I would hop on
Yeah.
for these overseas times. Well, when you're in an office and there's, maybe you don't have a window in your home office or where you're working in your home, you don't realize what time of day it is.
Mhm.
And there was multiple times that my husband came and said, "Get off. It's 7 o'clock at night. You've been on your computer since 6:30 this morning."
Wow.
And like, I didn't even realize. But then as a manager, you have a role and a responsibility to tell your own people,
Yeah.
"Hey, I need you to go walk around the block. Go and take a few minutes."
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever told someone in the office to go take a walk during
No.
lunchtime or something, or to go and like take a little break during the day.
Well, that's interesting, because that's another thing I want to touch up from a health perspective. Is it's twofold. It's I see those working from home, and especially during the pandemic with the added stress. But a couple of things I think as corporations and individuals need to think about is, if you are home, movement and dietary choices in either environment is going to be huge. So lots of people that are working from home, they tend to nibble a little bit more, maybe unhealthier snacks, that
Yes.
type of thing, versus not feeling you can do that in an office environment. Again, I'm not in that environment. I kind of
That's true.
roll my own show. But if we want to add some tips to those out there in the workforce, is be a little bit mindful of what habits maybe you have generated since COVID,
Yeah.
and have more healthier snacks that you're nibbling on if you're working at home, those type of things, and get up and move. But employers, the same thing, is understand that movement is key to production. So if they're getting up and taking a walk, advocate that, because the brain, in order to thrive, needs movement. So be mindful of getting up and taking a walk every hour in either environment. Go to the water cooler.
There was a Zoom call that I was on, and it was funny because I probably showed up to the Zoom call looking a mess, like without a doubt. And I said, "Look, I'm really sorry. I had 40 minutes before this call, and it was either I take a shower, I go for a run, and I chose to go for a run."
Yeah.
And at the time, the CEO, he's like, "You made the right choice." And then we just went on with the call.
Yeah.
As if, and I'm going like, wow. Like, cause I mean, not all companies would be okay with one of their execs showing up and, you know, red in the face and a baseball hat on. But this was a call I could do it. It wasn't like a crazy, like some calls you can't do that. But I needed that for the mental clarity because I just needed to get out of my space.
Yep.
So I think we need to look at this conversation. This is a great conversation, I think, from one that's not in the corporate world, as we're delving back into what is going to be normal.
So what I think is going to be really interesting is watching the next generation, because they're being pickier with, do you have a flexible with expectations of their employer, and they're certainly not afraid to say, I'm leaving this job to go here because of the ability to work more days remote. And we have to say also, imagine how much time the commute time that's been being saved right now.
Oh.
I mean, because we've all lived in like big cities. We might not live in big cities now, but we've lived in big cities to where it's not uncommon to see an hour and a half commute. And you're saving a lot. That's a lot of time to be with your family. It's a lot of time that you can.
And I would recommend, to kind of build on what Monica's saying, if you're at home, you know, build in some healthy practices. If you are not driving, you know, sometimes you drive home and you kind of decompress. You know, if you're home and everything is home, find your little outlet to decompress, go for a run, you know, spend that extra time that you're saving by not commuting, by doing something healthy to help you decompress from, you know, your work.
And socialization. If you are home and working at home, find your niche of people that you do socialize with.
Oh, that's a great idea, because you're lacking that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So as we wrap up, I'm really eager to hear from those listening. Would they leave a job in hopes to have, if they were given an opportunity to be able to work and spend more time working from home? Or have they been asked to go back 5 days a week? And honestly, what are they thinking about this?
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a fascinating discussion. Catch us in the comments. We're eager to see what you're saying. And until next time.